and welcome to this delightful Monday afternoon. We are playing a game of Stille Nacht, and I'm very excited because I playtested this game, and it was a blast, and I haven't played it since then. So, we're going to go around and we're going to say who we are, who we're going to be playing, and then get started, because it's going to be super duper fun. I'm Lindy, this is my channel, and I'll be playing Lily Hansen, who is just a sweet young lady who has, who's, married with, like 1.5 kids. It's fine. Tragedy happened, but we'll get to that during the game. But that's who she is currently. She currently manages her first husband's business, which is horse carriage rentals and horse rentals, and does some seamstress work on the side. We're just gonna go down beneath me to Pope. Pope, how are you today?
Doing well. No, hey everybody, Pope here. First time on this channel. This is new. But here for Stille Nacht. This is possibly my favorite phantasmagorical game. If you want to have all of the spoops, buy this, play this. It is a wonderful evening. Gather around together with friends in the cold and looking at staring daggers at one another. It is a wonderful time. I get to play Victor Klein. Both of us have he, him pronouns. And Victor is, currently a courier. May have a bit of a past, but we'll get into that later.
All right, fantastic. We also have the delightful Kat. How are you?
I'm good. Hi. My name is Kat, or at Clark of Cord. Also my first time here, I believe.
Yeah.
This is a nice place. I like it. Very homey. I am playing Charlotte Hansen, an older woman, not married, never been married, not a... how do I put this? She's a pillar of the community, and most people wish she wasn't.
I love that. I love that so much. That's who I want to be, IRL. Speaking of just someone who I'd want to be, Strider, how are you? It's been forever.
Hi, my name's Strider, and the last time I was on this channel, I had a head full of hair and a naive, youthful glimmer in my eye. And today I'm playing Peter Schmidt. Peter is a haughty ex-military officer, and I wanted to preface that by saying that Peter is what I emphatically refer to as a jerk-ass. I'm not anticipating him saying anything absolutely abhorrent, but so you're not caught off guard, he's a confrontational, self-defined man's man, like a pissed-off Disney's Gaston. So there's some language coming from this individual about how swarthy and swaggery he is, and his sexist views don't reflect this group's opinion, my opinion. And feel free to vilify Peter all you want, because I'm not anticipating anything untoward, but because if you can't play an interesting character without being problematic, then frankly, you're a shit actor. But folks like Peter are a product of their time, and sometimes it's earnestly cathartic to see bad things happen to him. Peter is Lily's second husband, but first love. So
true. So true. Spicy already. And I'm going to throw it over to our fantastic facilitator for this afternoon and the creator of this game, Petra. Petra, how are you?
I am very well. I'm a little bit nervous because it's been some time since I ran this game, played this game, but I'm surrounded by all of you lovely people, and you've been dropping hints left and right. It's like, what the heck did these four people come up with? Because if you've never played Stille Nacht before, the idea is that the usual setup of an RPG is turned around a little bit. I go into this game with only having some basic information. I'll be playing the medium called Marianne, and then most of the time I will be playing Finn Hansen, who seems to have been the husband at some point of Lily. I will find out.
Well, he died. Sorry.
Yes, spoiler alert, he died. Yeah, and before we get into it, let me just put out a quick disclaimer. Strider already said his part. If you have never experienced Stille Nacht before, this is a horror game that deals with topics such as death and loss and grief and hate and unresolved conflicts and very complicated human connections and all the stuff that plays into that. So all of us have played the game before, most of us multiple times. So we are all aware that this will get intense in some way or another at some point, probably sooner than later. And we have our safety tools set up in the background. But if at any point this gets too intense for you, please do not hesitate to step away from the table or from your screen and just take a break. And, this is recorded. You can come back to it whenever. So, but let's see just how traumatic and how dark and spicy this is going to get. I'm still a little bit confused on the spicy big part because I've never had that word used in connection with this game. That being said, let's get into it and allow me to set the scene. It is the eve of December 24th, 1720. Cold and damp comes the wind from the sea. It ushers in a fog thick enough to cut with a knife that settles around the houses and in the muddy streets. Faint light seeps through the windows, but no one moves behind closed shutters and drawn curtains. Everyone is holding their breath. Not in pious anticipation, though. Many a holy name has slipped from cracked lips since sundown, but to ask for protection, not to welcome a savior into this world. Another Christmas Eve full of terror, you think. 3 years ago, the sea swept inland, overpowered the dikes, and took whomever and whatever it wanted. Many got dragged from their homes without mercy, never to be seen again. Bodies lined the beach when the ice-cold water finally receded, like precious driftwood. And you remember the frozen corpses strewn over the fields and hanging from trees. And although rites had been said and names written on wooden crosses to remember them all, there was something about this flood from 1717 that just would not let the souls of the dead rest in peace. And so they returned 1 year later, appearing inside the houses of those they used to be close with. And these scenes repeated themselves in the year after. Not all of these ghosts long to be reunited with their families, however. You know that. You know that at least one of them is seeking truth and justice. The repeated haunting has added to the hardship of these past 3 years. Everyone lost someone in the flood, and many lost everything. Of those who survived, some moved away, but those who decided to stay managed to rebuild the village through hard work and little sleep, strengthened, if they were lucky, by the warmth of the loved ones they still had. It is Christmas Eve, almost midnight. While all is silent, you make your way to the outskirts of the village. A few weeks ago, a strange woman appeared out of nowhere, stayed about half a day, and then vanished unseen. Rumors spread quickly. This woman, called Marianne, had reportedly come all the way from Hamburg. She was interested in the flood and those who died. She asked many questions. Does she know? People whispered. Does she know what happens when all the clocks announce the beginning of December 25th? She did not come to talk to you, but you remember very clearly the look she gave you in passing. Those bright blue eyes contrasted by fiery red hair. A week later, the woman had been forgotten. But that was when you received a letter, an invitation. In it, this woman, this Marianne, called herself a medium. I know that he is unable to move on, she wrote. But the haunting will come to an end. He rest in peace if only you are committed to speaking the truth and nothing but the truth. She asked you to meet her at the abandoned shack by the dunes, and you obeyed. Lily, you are the first one to arrive. As you enter, you see the following. You see the medium Marianne standing by one of the windows. The shutters have been closed from the outside. And just like a few weeks back when Marianne visited the village for a few hours, she's dressed in fine clothes. Not super expensive, but not what most people in this village would wear. Although upon closer inspection, if you have the mind for it at this moment, you would see that her clothes are worn down, but well kept. She's also wearing a white cap that has a very hard time containing all of her messy red hair. She stands with the back towards you, and she does not turn around as you enter. You also see a table in the middle of the room. There are 6 chairs. There's several candles placed in the middle, and the wax has started to pool and cool down on the wooden surface. There's a fireplace on the left. And perhaps you noticed that on the brick around the fireplace, there are strange symbols, glyphs, drawn in charcoal. But maybe you don't notice. Maybe what you notice is that aside from the candles, there's 2 more objects placed on the table at the far end. There's a cap or a hat that looks quite dirty and beaten up. And there is a handkerchief that has handmade embroidery and the initials FH in one corner, and it is neatly folded, but that doesn't hide the fact that there is a very large, ugly, reddish-brown stain on this handkerchief. And you know both of these objects very well, because they belonged to a person you knew very well and who died 3 years ago. As you look back to Marianne, you can see that she has a little pouch in her hand, and she is busy lining the windowsill with salt. It's gray salt, perhaps purchased in your village. She still doesn't react as she moves over to the other window and continues, forming a line of salt in front of the window, all the while whispering something underneath her breath. Lily, tell me, what do we see as you enter this shack or hut? So describe yourself, please, and then tell us, how do you react as you enter?
So Lily is petite. She's a petite, kind of dainty-looking lady. She's got blonde hair. She probably has it all pinned up in some braids underneath a wool cap, which she'd probably pull off upon coming inside because it's warmer in here. Nice clothes. They used to be really nice, but it's almost as if the town was flooded 3 years ago and hasn't been able to get new fancy threads, but they've been very well maintained. And good shoes. Carries herself with a fairly confident kind of bearing. She doesn't seem shy or perturbed. She seems more kind of curious, a bit inquisitive about what's going on as she comes in. Maybe slight concern on her face, but not much. And she wouldn't want to interrupt this lady, because whatever she's doing with that salt, it seems like she's very focused on it, and it could be important, so she doesn't want to interrupt that. And so I think she just find a place to sit down and put her hat and her shawl on the seat next to her to save a spot for her husband. Ives.
So do you sit right next to the spot on the other side, so on one end where the hat and the handkerchief are lying? Sitting on either side of that?
Probably
right.
On one of those sides. That way, furthest in, that way you fill out as you go.
All right. As you sit down, Marianne still doesn't acknowledge your presence, although at some point you feel like she shoots you a glance over her shoulder. But if you were to try and meet her eyes, she would have returned to what she was doing before. Victor, you are next to arrive. Same question to you as you enter. What do we see? And how do you react?
Large fellow. 6'4", mid-30s, muscled. In low-end riding garb, stinks of horse, tired, deep circles around the eyes. Holds up in the doorway upon seeing everything. Eyes flit around the room. First to the brilliantly red-haired woman by the windowsill. Then to Lily. A look of uncomfortable recognition.
It's mutual.
And then to the items on the table. Just a stare. A deep, uncomfortable stare. And then taking a hand, almost like he's pushing himself into the room, presses off and heads to sit at the table farthest away from Lily.
Okay, so basically on the other side, and then I guess closest to Marianne.
Yeah.
So just 6 chairs, so 2 on each side, and then all right. And then just a very short moment later, another knock, and then Charlotte, it's your turn. You enter.
Charlotte is an older woman. Her face is set in very stern lines. She's quite large for a woman in that very kind of raw-boned way. Easily stands 5'10", broad cheekbones, a strong jaw, strong nose. Her hair is a chestnut brown that's going iron gray, braided, wrapped in braids around her head. She has a wool shawl that she drops, that she'd been pulled up over her head, that she drops down when she enters. Her clothes are well made but simple. They appear to be finely woven, very practical. A heavy wool skirt, a thick leather belt, leather shoes with a bit of a heel on them that are several years out of fashion, but obviously not worn often. And she has 2 bits of vanity. One, you can tell that there's just a touch of rouge to her cheeks, and that there is a very intricate lace sewn onto the skirt. And this is, again, a very powerful built woman. She steps inside, closes the door behind her to keep the weather out, pauses, looks around, and then with a strong stride, it's not a walk, she is striding, and you can hear her feet hitting the wood floor as she moves around the room, examining everything, standing there very upright. No expression on her face. Her eyes have this kind of, they're gray, piercing, as she examines everything without touching it, moving around the room, finally coming to the table. She looks down at the items. I made that handkerchief for him. And then looks over suspiciously at the red-haired woman, as if wondering where she got it from. Looks back down at the handkerchief. And if there's no response, we'll then step around to the chair that's directly across from Lily.
Takes a moment.
Take a seat.
Mm-hmm. Takes a moment. But Mariana seems to have finished up her task of lining the windowsills with the gray salt. And she seems very relaxed in her stance. She just briefly looks over her shoulder at you. And even though you didn't ask for it directly, she just says, certain things have a habit of finding me. Things and spirits. And she continues to put the little pouch in a bag that she placed off to the wall.
Things that belong to other people finding themselves to strangers usually find their way when they are stolen.
She just gives you a very curious, almost amused smile, but not in a condescending way. Stays very relaxed. Because that is true. It wasn't the case here. And then, as I guess they're looking at each other, the final knock. And Peter, I leave it up to you if it is a striding hard knock on the wooden door, or if you knock at all, maybe you just enter. Either way, please come on in.
Yeah, standing in the doorway is a square-headed, blonde, chiseled-jawed, clean-shaven individual with a furrowed brow. He has a fancy, spotless, meticulous, and fastidiously kept military coat thrown over his nightshirt, trying to hide this big spill of food his baby just knocked onto him like right before he left. He is 5'9", and he's somehow managing to try to make himself up to take up at least as much space as Victor. He walks in, walks over to Lily, gives her a smooch on the cheek. Hey, Bunny Bear. Plops down. Margie's settled, but we ought to hurry up here if we can. Is that the medium?
Yes, dear.
Well,
And Mariana just comments, yes, she is.
Well, you might be a medium lady, but I'm a large, and I'm not scared of any ghosts. How big can a ghost be? He looks over at Victor, and he's like, where are you supposed to be? And as he's saying that, he's just like reaching right towards the handkerchief to like yoink it. Just like,
No, you will not touch that.
Uh-huh.
And you have her icy blue eyes just stared at you in a sudden switch of manners. Then she just relaxes again and she looks at all of you. And if I remembered your seating positions correctly, from my point of view, from the medium's point of view, it should be women on the left and guys on the right, because I know Lily said she said, well, she didn't say where she said, but I know it's Lily and Charlotte across from each other. And then
yeah, on opposite sides.
And then closer to me, the two guys across from each other.
And Victor is as far away from Lily, so probably across and the last seat possible.
Yeah.
And Peter's right next to Lily.
Yeah. Right. So we have Lily and Peter on the left, and then Charlotte and Victor on the right. And finally, Marianne sits down. Well, let's begin, shall we? And she looks at you, one after another, and she says, you were all asked here tonight to bring an end to what has been an unnecessarily prolonged ordeal. I know that you have been visited by the same spirit, someone who died a terrible death 3 years ago, almost to the hour. But it wasn't the flood that killed them. All of you were close by in this poor soul's final moments. What each of you did, I do not know yet. But tonight we shall find out. Remember, honesty is your only way out. Heed this advice if you want all of us to leave this place unharmed and sound in body and soul. And now, let's take each other's hand and form a circle. Speak after me. We call upon you, Finn.
We call upon you.
Call upon you, Finn.
It won't work like this. All of you have to repeat it once more. We call upon you, Finn.
We call upon you, Finn.
Too long have you wandered in darkness.
Too long
have you wandered in darkness.
Tonight you shall receive answers.
Tonight you shall receive answers.
Tonight you shall remember.
Tonight you shall remember.
Follow our voices and come to us.
Follow our voices and come to us.
Join us.
Join us.
And as you speak, right away or hesitantly, the last words, join us, the door of the hut bursts open, and there is a heavy, damp fog that rolls in, way too thick to be just a natural kind of fog. And you see shapes forming in this fog. Maybe hands, faces, but those stay just outside, just off the threshold. But out of this fog steps the spectral form of someone all of you know. It is the transparent, smoky outlines of a young man, more on the short side, with broad shoulders, walking purposefully towards the free chair. And even before he gets there, this chair is pulled back by an invisible force. The door closes on its own. The last bit of the fog dissipates. And this man, Finn, sits down. And even though he's quite transparent at this moment and in shades of gray, you can all make out his outlines. And as you take a closer look, you can see that it looks as if he just stepped out of the sea. He is dripping wet. and you see rivulets of water running down his face. He is quite pale, even for a spirit. His lips have a tint of blue to them. And you hear soft pitter-patter of droplets. If any of you looks down, there's indeed water on the floor around his chair. And
Trick.
Sorry, come again.
Charlotte mutters under her breath, kind of cutting her eyes to avert the medium. Nice trick.
Charlotte doesn't react as you would if you look over to her. She has both of her. She is still holding the hands of Peter and whoever's to her right, Victor. And her eyes are glossed over, not white or anything, but she's clearly focusing inward. But you hear her mutter, "You may let go of each other's hands now the circle has been established. And as you can see, we are no longer alone." And she kind of leans back in her chair, and it's as if the shadows that dominate this room are swallowing her. And on the other side, across from her, the spectral figure looks up, and he looks at all of you. It's a very neutral look on his face. There's no recognition. And his eyes first land on you, Lily. He asks, "What is my name?"
Finn Hansen.
And then he looks over to you, Charlotte. He asks, "How old was I at the time of my death?"
You are young, brother. Just 27.
And then he looks over to you, Peter. "Tell me, what were my daily chores?"
Well, you couldn't ride the horses anymore. They had you doing all the books. Your little office with your quill, your little lamp. Don't you remember that?
I'm not sure. Yes. The horses. The office. And then as he's trying to piece together this bit of information, he looks over to you, Victor, and he asks, "Where was the body found?"
Just a little ways outside the stables.
The stables, I worked there. That was my home, yes.
Yeah.
He sits a little bit more upright and then says, "I died 3 years ago, but my soul finds no rest. Year after year, I am pulled back here, but I wish to move on." And then, as he did before, he's looking at all of you, one after another, and then asks all of you at the same time, asks into the room. The question is for each one of you. Are you here to help me remember how I died so I may rest in peace?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Emphatically, yes.
Yes.
Well, truth or lie?
And Lily, she's let go of Charlotte's hand, but she's still holding onto Peter's hand since the circle has broken.
Charlie, how the hell is this a trick? They even have his limp.
Who knows? Perhaps the same way she acquired the handkerchiefs and the hat. And Victor would have noticed that as they were told to let go of their hands, that Charlotte's hand lingered just a moment as she slid it away from his. How is the baby? Is she asleep? Did you get someone to watch her?
The neighbor is going to check in if they hear anything.
No, the same neighbor that keeps eyeing her jewelry box.
Hopefully she's been sleeping through the night lately, so shouldn't be a problem.
It's a good baby.
She is.
Doesn't cry
She's
much.
a good girl.
She's very excited to see you tomorrow. But then, holiday.
What makes one of us?
Gentle elbow to Peter.
No.
Yes, Peter. Well, since I won't be seeing you at church, I imagine that at least I can come by and see you with my dear sister and the baby. Victor, it's good to see you again.
It's been a long time, Victor.
Who's Victor?
He used to be the stable master, right before you came back into town.
As you're having this conversation, you notice that the table begins to shake ever so slightly. And then it begins to rattle. And Marianne, at one end of the table, leans back in a little bit, her eyes narrowed. She gives each of you a very cold stare. What did I just tell you? And the shaking increases. The fire in the fireplace begins to roar. And then there's a little explosion inside the fireplace, and a piece of smoldering hot wood flies out and hits Marianne, the medium, in the temple. And she's knocked to the side, and she seemed a little out of it. She doesn't even notice at first that there's not just a bruise, probably a bump that's quickly forming, but she also has burned skin. And for a moment, she doesn't even know what happens. And across from her, you see Finn flicker a little bit. It's almost like he's frozen. He looks dead as a spirit can look. And for a moment, it looks like Marianne is going to lash out at you. She looks very angry. And then she takes a shuddering breath. All right. I would say this just one more time. She takes a bit of her own shawl to dab.
Offer a handkerchief.
Yeah, without even looking at you, she takes it, dabs the blood and winces as she makes contact with the burned and bruised skin. I will say this just one more time. If you want all of us to get out of here in one piece, you better speak the truth.
Perhaps he does not like thieves.
And again, she goes into the state of inner focus. You see her wince one more time. And then the image of Finn steadies and the table stops rattling and the fire goes back to where it was. And then Finn begins to move. Again, he looks at all of you. He looks at you, Charlotte. And he goes, On the morning of my last day on Earth, I remember I went to the church to light a candle and say a prayer for my family's health and also something else. I don't remember. But why did our paths cross, Charlotte?
Finn, we would go to the church together. You were delayed, I believe, that morning. I was on my way back. I had already been. We lit a candle on the morning of every Christmas Eve for our mother.
For our mother?
Well, yes, Finn, our mother. Johanna, our mother.
So you are... We are...
I am your sister, Peter. I'm sorry, I'm your sister, Finn. Your sister. Remember how it raised you.
Yes, of course. Charlotte, And then he sinks back into himself. The moment of recognition gone. Sister. Yes, our mother.
Yes.
Did we say a prayer for her?
Of course. As we did every year.
He just nods to himself, thinking about what you said. And then he looks at Peter and he says, on my way back to the stables, I remember I saw you and I called out for you, but you didn't react. Why is that?
There were more people back then. It was hustle and bustle. Maybe I didn't hear you. I heard you. I was busy.
Busy. And he looks as if he sees or notices for the first time your well-kept uniform. Soldier. You are a soldier. You are a soldier?
Yeah. You don't know that. Yeah, I came back. I was gone for a long time. You and I hadn't seen each other. I was happy to see you again.
And what were you busy with that morning?
I was helping Lily, your wife, run some errands and do some things that needed to be done.
And as at the mention of Lily and wife, Finn looks over to you, studies you. And then there's this, just for a brief moment, this twinkle in his eyes that he had when you first met. And then when he looked upon you ever since. Or at least that is what comes to him first. My Lily. And then that recognition fades as well for the moment. And he looks back at Petra for a moment and says, "It was nice of you to help her." And then he looks over at Victor. "Why were you and Lily ignoring each other that morning on the way to church?" I believe it was on the way to church. I saw the two of you passing each other without a word, and something about that seems wrong.
I glare at Victor at this.
Looks back. I wasn't just avoiding her, I was avoiding you. I was avoiding a lot of you. You fired me that morning. You fired me on Christmas Eve.
Why would I do such a thing?
Because this was going to be a family business. Your best friend had come back from war. You were so happy. You were going to bring him in, spend time with family, make everything whole again. And
again.
Yeah, again. And so you had no more time for me. And nothing else to have from me. So it's giving you all your space.
I'm sorry, I guess. And then again, there's this moment of recognition. And even there's a hint of guilt on his face for just a second. And then he looks at Lily. What do you have to say about that? Is that right? What Victor said, is that why you ignored each other?
Well, it's partially correct. Do you not recall the conversation we had the night before? I found out you were cheating on me with him.
I don't remember. He looks back at Victor.
I was your wife, but he was your lover.
This is a strange story you are telling me. But I feel that there's truth in there somewhere. And he looks back. He looks back at you, Charlotte. And he's sort of trying to piece everything together. He said, "So we lit a candle for our mother. We said a prayer to her, yes?"
Yes, as we did the morning of every Christmas Eve.
And then he looks at Peter and says, "And it was too loud, you didn't, or maybe you heard me, but you were a very busy man. And you helped my wife.
She needed some consoling after disagreement.
I see. And then looks at Victor. I fired you that very day.
Yeah.
And finally looks at Lily. Did we really have an argument about me cheating on you?
Yeah.
Well, another round, truth or lie. All right.
My characters always tell so many half-truths, so this is the hardest part of the game for me.
Yeah. I think Petra's now seen where all our spicy comments were coming from.
So that big guy there, that's
Spice
one.
from the afterlife.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, yes.
Focus
Yeah,
on them.
that's him. Yeah.
What did Finn see in him?
Beats me.
Charlotte has been looking at Victor when the truth came out. Wasn't something that Charlotte knew, and she looked for a moment like she was going to slap Victor. I mean, the hand just came back, and then she's just kind of glaring at him, and then starts looking between Lily and Peter, as if things are starting to make a little sense now.
What? No.
All right, I almost have it.
It's fine. I think there's just a very awkward silence and a lot of shooting of
Yeah.
looks across
Just
the
don't
table.
Just don't say anything crucial, because I'm not hearing you when I'm
Yeah.
marking down the
This-
points.
There's a lot of awkward silence, stares, and I think you get that moment of like just when a gust hits, and you hear everything that's loose on one side of the house.
Mm-hmm.
So you get that little bit of rattle, and if this is an old abandoned place, a little bit of snow comes from the chimney into the fire, causing a sizzle, billow of smoke and steam.
And just as that happened, all of you notice that Finn in front of your eyes seems to become more corporeal. He's still a little bit translucent, but there's more contrast. There's color now to his appearance. And he looks not as dripping wet and kind of drowned anymore. Yeah, he looks almost, not quite, as you all knew him. And he looks at all of you and says, I believe you. I believe all of you. I believe that Charlotte and I, we lit a candle for our mother. I remembered how we did that. Every day, every year on December the 24th. And I think I remember now, Peter, that I saw you carrying bags. You were really too busy and you couldn't have possibly hurt me, or maybe you just thought it was someone else, but it wasn't malice that you didn't turn around. when I called out for you. And Victor, I believe you. I've fired you. And for a moment longer, Victor, there's, instead of this mask that the spirit is still wearing for most of the time, there is also a look of recognition. And with Lily, it was a twinkle in his eye, but with you, it's a warmth of a different kind that's there. And then it's gone. I fired you. It doesn't sound right, but I guess I did. I guess I did. And he looks at Lily. We had that fight, didn't we? You found out? How long had it been going on at that point? I don't remember. And then that emotion fades, and once more there's a more stoic look to his face. And then his eyes fall back on you, Victor. And he speaks. I know I saw you at noon that day when the church bell rang. But I don't remember where. Tell me, where was I? And what was I doing there?
You were great at business, but terrible at people. You were rushing about trying to get last-minute gifts for your wife, your family, your best friend, and your baby. Rushing around like a chicken with its head cut off. Right around the town square, hitting up the market stalls, trying to get what was left.
Yes. I got something for you as well, didn't I? Or maybe I didn't.
You remembered me. You gave me something as you were firing me. As we were saying goodbye. Gave me a... You found a key in the old abbey where we used to meet. You gave me that to hold on to. Like that would make things better.
But we didn't intend on seeing each other again.
You made that very clear. You had a kid that had lasted more than 6 months. No more stillbirths.
That's
you
right.
had a family to attend to.
I had a family I attend to. It just couldn't be, couldn't it? It just... Yes, the key. And then he looks over at you, Peter. And he says, I remember now, I was sketching the last gifts I wanted. There was the shawl I had gotten for my wife, and I was on the marketplace. Peter, why was it there was a noise? Why was it so noisy on the marketplace?
Well, suppose there were two kinds of people. Ones like yourself who were shopping for Christmas, and ones that thought the storm was going to be really bad. Wind was picking up. A couple raindrops started falling. People were saying it was the, end of times, and we weren't going to listen to them.
There was no time.
We figured we'd been through worse with a little rain. I'm not buying supplies or buying Christmas presents. Gonna have a proper Christmas this year, for once.
To make it whole again, yes? To have a family again.
Yeah, to bring back the Explorers Club. You remember that when we were kids? Me, Lily, you.
The dunes, the images. I'm not. Maybe.
It's the first time we're all gonna be together again in a decade.
Who has time for a little bit of rain and wind at that moment?
Yeah. We didn't know it was gonna be that bad.
The dikes had always... They never let us down. Never.
Yeah,
and then
That's what I told you.
Then he looks over to Lily. I was on my way back from buying gifts, I think. Why? I saw you. Why were you in such a hurry?
Well, you remember our son? Maybe you don't. John.
We have a son.
We had a son.
Of course.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, the flood. He died the same night you did. But earlier that day, most of our children didn't make it past 6 months. They were very sickly. He was doing so well. He had been a bit under the weather the week before, but he was feeling better that day, so I was rushing out to pick up a couple of things for dinner that night, and just to have some extra medicine on hand, just in case he started to go back downhill a bit. Just to have it on hand, because I'd used up our supply.
We had a son. Baby. Someone spoke of a baby. What? A baby, Lily?
He was a baby. He was about 1.
And that was our son. I haven't seen him since. Good. He's moved on then. At least he has. And then he looks over to you, Charlotte. And as all that was happening, what were you doing at midday, my sister?
Oh, Finn. He looked just like you. He's a beautiful boy. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Yes. Oh, such a hectic day, such a hectic morning. All the preparations and the baby and shopping. After church, we went to the market. I was helping him pick out gifts. I had wondered why Victor seemed to be hiding from you, but now I know. I don't know what to think anymore. But that's clearly in the past. And, well, after I'd helped you pick out a few gifts for Lily and for the baby, I had my own shopping to finish up, and I went back to the church to help with the preparations for Mass. As you know, that I was very active there in the church. I had just finished a new lace altar cloth and was, well, you know, it takes work. So we said our goodbyes, that we would see each other at dinner, and I went back to the church.
And just as before, he's looking back at each of you one after another, but things are coming to him quicker now. And he looks at Victor with a mixture of still confusion, a lot of confusion in his eyes, and said, So I gave you the key, and then we said goodbye. And he looks at Peter, and we were at the marketplace, and we decided that it wasn't worth listening to those who were warning us of the impending doom. Yes?
That's right, Finn.
He looks at Lily. You were out making some errands, getting medicine for our little boy. And looks at Charlotte. You were so important to the church, I remember that. You helped, of course. That point in the day, you would have helped prepare the Mass for the evening. Truth or lie?
Mm-hmm.
Marguerite would have liked having an older brother.
She would. She could certainly use someone to help expend all that energy.
Sorry, I've been busy. I haven't come to visit as often as I should. She looks over at Peter.
If there's one thing you know how to handle, it's kids. If you ever want to take her off our hands for a few days. Be my guest.
I will happily watch my niece anytime.
She might be a Schmidt, but wouldn't be able to tell by looking at her.
Thankfully, she does take after Lily.
And you notice for a moment that the fire in the fireplace that seemed almost more decoration than actually there to provide some warmth up until then. There's actually some heat radiating from it for a moment. Just providing a sensation, comfort. And Finn looks at you and he nods and he says, I thank you. I thank you for being so honest with me. I believe all of you. I gave you the key, Victor. We were together on the marketplace, talking about the people warning us. The end of times, Peter. Well, of course, you had rushed out to prepare the last few things and get medicine for our little boy. And Charlotte, my sister. Devout Christian you were in the church helping.
The church has always been kind to me. Comfort.
And once more, he looks at all of you. Peter, in the early afternoon, the wind got so strong that at our house, the stables, there were things that started to get thrown around, scaring everybody. It was just tools, and I think it was a wheelbarrow that was just tumbling off to the side, and some of my horses, they got scared and they ran off. And just when everything was ready for Christmas Eve. But you were there to help me, weren't you? As I was chasing the horses, you helped me. Yes?
Yeah. Stable master was nowhere to be found, and you didn't tell me why, but I know why now. And that's, that's man's work. Lily and Charlie wouldn't be much help, and no offense, but you were never the best at man's work.
What do you mean? And he looks down at himself, not seeing anything wrong. The stable was mine. The horses were mine. I remember that. I ran this business. People came to me. to lend horses and carriages.
Sure, buddy, you ran the front desk. Ever since you hurt your leg, though, you never stepped foot near a horse again. At least not on top of one.
And then he doesn't really notice, but there's a hand reaching down to his knee, sort of rubbing it, trying to remember. But he can't quite piece it together. Lily, he looks at you. Lily, how did I get hurt as we were running, trying to get the horses back?
Oh, your leg, your limp, it's pretty bad. Ever since you broke it that one time in the Explorers Club out in the Abbey ruins. You were running and you twisted your ankle. You didn't break anything this time, but it definitely wasn't good. It was all swollen up. We had to put some, ice on it, some snow.
You did that, didn't you? You put the ice on my ankle.
I did.
You were nice to me after everything that had happened in the hours prior. And for a split second, Lily, his look shifts from gratefulness to confusion to suspicion and back to neutral. And he looks at Charlotte. Some point we had gotten the horses back. We found them. They had run almost all the way to the marketplace. We had caught them, or had I caught up? I had caught up to the others. And someone was fighting. Someone fought, Charlotte. Who was it? And why?
Well, Finn, and she's glaring at Peter, as you know, the horses are not just man's work. Small men believe that women are incapable of handling large animals. Some of us are quite capable when we've grown up doing so all our lives, and that your limb never hindered you in your ability to care for the animals. Yes, you did not ride, that is true.
So you stood up for me.
I'm your sister, your big sister. Of course I stood up for you. I always stood up for you. I had seen I was on my way back from the church. I had seen the horses running loose, managed to grab them, and was bringing them back down to the stables. That's when I saw you and Peter fighting.
Yes. He and I, we were fighting. You saw?
Yes, of course. I saw everything. It's true, Finn, you're not a You're not a large man, but you can hold your own. Peter, full of his bravado from the war, carrying himself around like a big man.
And he briefly looks over at Peter. Same mix of confusion and a hint of suspicion, just for a second.
I didn't catch what you were saying, but I heard the voices. He was trying to loom over you. You stood your ground.
And then he finally looks at Victor. And he looks at you and says, "What were you doing when all of this happened? The horses, and we got them back. I know. You said we weren't going to meet again, and I remember. But I feel like there was more."
Yes, there was more. Stares at Charlotte and Peter. You were causing a scene after you got the horses in the middle of the town square. The three of you. The hollering, the bickering.
The three of us?
Yes, the three of you. As the winds howling, rain started coming down hard. Wasn't sure who threw the first punch, but all three of you were at each other's throat. I dragged you out of the pile. Once you were free, gave you your handkerchief back, had the blood off your nose, kissed your forehead, and then let you be.
As you say that, his hands, while still on the table, sort of creeps towards yours. Doesn't get there even close, but for a moment just reaches out a little and then pulls back. He just ponders for a moment and looks back at you, Victor, says, "I wasn't a good person, wasn't I?"
You were a good man when you wanted to be. You just weren't meant to have a family. Not like that. Talked about it. You always wanted to leave town. You never felt right here. You always wanted to go off.
But it
see
was
the
my
world.
father's business. I had to. There was no one else.
Yes, there was no one possibly capable of running the place. Stares at Charlotte. Yeah, we had that conversation multiple times over about what you could do, that you were freer than you thought. But you had to be a good son, a good husband, a good father.
That is what I was taught to be a good son, to be a good brother, and a good husband. Isn't that what counts?
Yes, of course, Finn. Of course. Don't listen Victor. It was your right to inherit the business. And you made it much more successful than our father had. Much more successful than I ever could. My talents did not lie in that direction. And she's pulls out a lace handkerchief, a bit of lace that she's kind of rubbing between her fingers. I had other skills, other talent.
That is right. That's how it had to be. Family.
Yes, family. And she glares at Victor. And then Peter.
He looks at Peter. Yes, you helped with the horses. Because I wasn't as fast as anymore as I once was. Yes. You helped me get the horses back, right?
Yeah, if I knew you were dealing with all the salvage stuff, I'd have gotten off your case a bit. So.
He looks at Lily. You put ice on my twisted ankle after I had fallen and landed in the muddy street. It was humiliating. You were there, right?
I just arrived as that happened. I guess that was after the fight, and she kind of looks between Peter, Charlotte, and Victor. I arrived just as Victor was giving you back your handkerchief, but I waited a moment, and then you twisted your ankle, and that's when I stepped in, took you home. Put ice in your ankle, wrapped it.
And sister, you saw me begin the fight with Peter, and then you said you stood up for me, but you also said that you weren't able to hear what we were talking. Which one was it?
I was not able to hear what the fight was about. You had come to blows just as I got closer. By then there were no more words, just punches being thrown, and despite what Victor seems to think, I have never brawled like a common stable hand in the streets. I was breaking up the fight, separating you and Peter. But again, you two used to scrap all the time when you were younger, so it was nothing too unusual that it would happen again, but old habits die hard, I guess, even after 10 years.
And he looks back at Victor and at the handkerchief in front of him. And his hand, still a bit translucent, reaches, it looks like it, he runs his finger over the handkerchief. You used this to dab the blood. My blood of the wound, yes. After the fight.
Once I pulled you out, the fight didn't quite end until Lily came into view. Then Peter and Charlotte all of a sudden stood at attention, as it were.
But why would you do that? Why would you have come back after I did to you what I did?
Because I loved you. Because I still hoped that I could convince you to change your mind. If I could just get you away from them But I didn't have a lot of luck in that. I knew soon as Billy arrived, I needed to be elsewhere.
And for a moment, your expression, Victor, is mirrored in Finn's face. And then confusion, and he shoots all of the other three a questioning look. Once more, truth or lie. And I think I have to get my mouse from under my cat.
Oh.
Oh no, here it is.
Perhaps when this is done and Christmas is finished and we have ended our celebrations, Victor, if you'd like to see how hard I throw the punch, I would be happy to remind you.
I remember your bullying days. I don't need to be reminded.
It's not a bully.
Yes, say that to Hans, or Otto, or Hilda. But you can't because they all left.
My job to keep the younger children in line. What I did.
Lily's just looking back and forth between Victor and Finn, experiencing that all over again. Like, that was a sucky day for Lily. She's just being reminded of it.
I believe you, Peter, that you helped me with the horses. But I remember now the fight that we had, and I can't shake the feeling that none of this was meant to be. I was in the wrong place, wasn't I? Lily, I remember you coming to me, putting ice on my twisted ankle. Charlotte, I believe you saw the fight. You had witnessed these fights between Peter and me so many times.
Boys will be boys. And when they're men.
And then you all notice where, not too long ago, there was this cozy warmth coming from the fire. All of a sudden, you see your own breath as you breathe out. And only now you register that the temperature has dropped quite a bit. And very slowly, Finn turns his head to look at you, Victor. He just stares. Why? And you see tears in his eyes. Is that what I deserve? Was I such a cruel person indeed that you now lie to my face after I have come back through the darkness?
You want us to air all our dirty laundry in front of everyone? Is that what you really want? Is that what you need? I know how much you cared about family, your reputation. Trying to protect you.
He looks at all of you suspiciously. I was just trying what was right. I was just trying what I thought was right. And then the temperature rises again. And there's no more clouds in front of your face as you breathe out. One second, I meant to send that to everyone.
Oop. Oh, snap.
Yes, Finn, of course you cannot trust someone who's not family.
And yeah, we shall take a quick break.
We shall indeed. Whoop.
And then return with the last bit of this tragedy.
Back in just a few minutes. And we're back from break. Thank you all for waiting. We're ready to stab more knives into our feels.
All right. So the temperature in the room has returned to where it was at the beginning. Still a bit on the cold and clammy side. Could be worse. And at this point, Finn looks... He's almost fully corporeal. But he's still clearly not human looking. And he keeps looking from one to the next. You can sense his confusion growing, perhaps his resistance. He looks briefly at Victor and he looks as if he's about to say something, but then he doesn't. Then he looks at you, Lily, and he says, in the evening, the wind died down. It even stopped raining for a while. Finally. Had been raining for days on end, hadn't it? I asked you, you wanted to go and take a walk, perhaps get some fresh air, but you weren't listening. You seemed distracted. And then I said that I was going just for a walk, just to stretch my legs for a bit, and you seemed relieved. Why?
Well, had that argument, and just earlier that morning and the night before, and yes, I was trying to keep up appearances around town, and it was Christmas Eve, happy occasion, a happy day, but I was still pretty hurt and upset by what I had found out. And just in time away from you would have seemed just like a bit of a relief. Still had some things to think about and process. Even though I know you said you had fired Victor, but I couldn't help but think maybe you were leaving to go see him again, but I don't know. I just needed some space.
Did you make me fire him?
I didn't make you, I asked you to. Temptation is much easier to give into if it's right there. Maybe you would be more inclined to spend more time at home if he wasn't there. All day, every day.
But all those years before, I provided for you, haven't I?
You did.
So I was a good husband until that point.
Aside from that, yes. You were a fine husband.
That's right.
You
I was.
performed your husbandly duties.
He He looks at you, Peter. So it was just me who stepped outside, took a walk, clear my head, and stretch my legs. Just seemed there was no way out. Felt like tied up, weighed down by all of it. But I also saw you on my walk, didn't I? I saw your face. You looked disappointed. Whatever was the matter?
Oh, well, bunch of shit. I snuck out to come chat with you. We had a brief apology about scrapping earlier. Then we had words.
What kind of words?
I was still probably a bit upset. You knew.
Upset about what I did to Lily.
You know that Lily and me, since, back in, since the Explorers Club. And then I appreciated that you were looking after her while I was gone, but I spent so many years thinking about her, wishing I was by her side instead of where I was, wondering if I was ever going to get back home. I was disappointed in you because how the hell could you just treat her like that and throw that away? I would have killed for that. I did kill for that. And you had it, and you just let it go.
So you were angry because of what I did to Lily, because she and you wanted to protect her.
I was probably a bit jealous. I asked you, why this, stable master? What's he have that she doesn't?
So who were you jealous of, Peter?
I don't know, everyone. You got to stay at home while I had to go away. You got to spend time with Lily. You were going off and spending time with some old man instead of me. I wanted this Christmas to be like they used to be. It was supposed to be my first actual Christmas again. Things were supposed to return to normal. Everyone has needs. If you had some sort of need for men, I don't know why you didn't just ask me to help. I don't know why you had to go to the stable master.
Why do you talk like this?
Blink, blink.
Life's living hell. Nothing turned out the way it was supposed to. Our lives got fucked up. Every dream, every aspiration we had, none of it went the way it was supposed to.
Yes, we were all We all ended up in the wrong place, didn't we? And there's no friendliness as he says that to you.
Growing up sucks.
And then he looks to Victor. Sometime that evening, I lost something, or something was stolen from me. What was it?
In the panic, and most likely in the fight, lost the ring of keys to everything. Lockbox at home, house, stables. Came to me thinking I took them. In that little bit of exchange that we had. I'd asked you, this is one of the things that I omitted. Well, I tracked you out of that pile. You agreed to back up with me. I thought we could talk things out, but no, you were angry. Accusatory. Saying I was doing whatever I can to stay in your life. You weren't entirely wrong. Just wrong about me taking the keys.
So you didn't take them?
No, the person who was avoiding you since the fight took them. Charlotte had been ducking you since the fight.
Is that true, Charlotte?
Of course not. I was busy. It's avoiding. Why would I avoid my brother?
Oh, let us count the ways, Charlotte.
Victor, what do you know? You're not family. You have no insight into what happens in this family.
I know about all the arguments. I know how you made your little brother cry. I know how he was afraid of you.
You were siblings. Siblings argue, much the way friends argue.
Loved you dearly. Paid that love by making him feel less of a person.
Really? Deflecting again, Victor?
No, I don't trust myself up for church and go to a place I'm not wanted. They don't drag others with me.
Sodomite.
And Finn doesn't really react to any of that. But he's looking more and more upset. And at some point he just mumbles to himself, there was no other way out, was there? I just... Did I do all these things? And then there's something else comes to his mind. So he heard a name. Someone spoke a name a while ago. Seemed important. He looks up, looks at all of you. Who is Marguerite?
That's a loaded question.
Marguerite. She was our baby sister, the youngest of us. Yes, Lily.
And, she's the name of... I named me and Peter's daughter after her. We're very close, Marguerite. You, me, and Peter.
Daughter, what?
It's been 3 years. I've remarried. Peter.
She's healthy. She's doing well, and she's cool.
She is her mother's daughter. She's a beautiful little girl.
And his eyes fix on Peter. So you just accused me stealing Lily. Then I happened to die. Just repaid me by doing the same? How does that make you in any way better a man than I am? And then he shoots a glaring look at Lily. I thought I was supposed to feel sorry for you. I was about to apologize for everything that happened. All of you. I came to find answers. But I wasn't expecting to find this. Who are we? Who is any of us?
Wait just a damn minute. Lily was mine and I had to go away. And the second I'm gone, the second you think I'm dead, you swoop in and marry her.
We got a letter that stated you had fallen.
We got a corpse stated you had fallen.
And once more, the temperature begins to drop. And you see Finn's hands curl into fists. And that is when, from the other side of the table, Marianne turns forward out of the shadows. She mumbles something, probably in Latin. And you hear Finn breathe out for a moment, comes a little bit more translucent again. And you hear Marianne whisper, "Just fucking end this already. This is what we came here for. This is what you came here for." And I'm just going to ask you truth or lie. I'm not even going to ask specific questions.
Boop, boop, boop. Make sure I click the right name.
Right.
Charlotte's looking at Finn and she's got that big sister look on her face. Finn, truthfully, you cannot be angry at Lily and Peter. You had died. Lily needed help. And you knew, even before Peter left, how Peter felt for Lily. And yes, you got the letter and you thought Peter was dead and you wanted to take care of Lily.
Then why did you say yes?
Because
was there a reason to lead me on? All those years?
She did not lead you on. No, Finn. She loved you as well. And that is why she said yes. And you married and you had children. It was Victor who led you on, led you astray. Lily was faithful.
So faithful that it wasn't a week until they got married after he died.
It was a year. We waited the mourning period.
That was when you had the public ceremony. Everyone knows that Charlotte pulled on the bishop's ear had you quickly married. That's an open secret. Everyone in town knows. That's why they stare at you. That's why I took the courier job. I couldn't stand to look at any of you.
I was in the house living with them for that year. I assure you nothing improper happened, despite what Victor slanders lies.
Silence. And then, as you look at Finn, he now sits in front of you, just as you knew him, clad in very simple, practical clothing. And you don't know when that happened, but he's now wearing the cap. The hat is no longer lying in front of him. But you can still tell that he's not really sitting in front of you, made of flesh and bones. It's a little bit as if someone dialed down the saturation to maybe 75%. And I would like all of you to know that the final stage of the memory counter has been unlocked, so you now have access to all of the other moves. And continue talking for a moment.
Sure.
I just have one more die. Hold on.
Yeah, we don't need a ghost to tear us apart. We'll just
Actually, I'm good.
do it ourselves.
Charlotte has moved away from Victor. She's actually physically kind of moved in the chair even a little bit as she can. Gotten closer to the ghost of her brother, who now looks like her brother, her baby brother. And as he becomes more corporeal, she starts to reach for him. Like she wants to hold his hand, to touch him, to see if he's actually there. And I think she even starts to, she notices a smudge or something, and she's like, going like she's gonna clean his face off the way.
He pulls away. After that conversation that was just had,
And
he has no kindness left in his eyes. And you hear him mumbling over and over. I had to do it. I had to do what was right. She told me. You, sister, you told me. I did what I was supposed to do, wasn't I?
yes, you were a good man, Finn.
And see where it led me. See where it led me, where I am now.
It was not you. You were led astray. It's not your fault. You were coerced.
But by whose words, I ask you, sister?
By Victor. Look at him. It was he who led you down that path. I understand you thought he cared for you, and what you saw in him, I do not know.
Well,
but I understand it's not your fault.
No more. I will hear no more of this. Let me ask you instead. Shortly after midnight, when the water had already flooded our homes, those people had woken up. I could already hear them clamoring. And I wasn't awake either. I couldn't. Not after everything that had happened, and Keys. Damn Keys. And I made sure Lily was safe and our son, and then I had to run to the stables. It was our livelihood. After all, right, I had to preserve the family business. So I ran to the stables, Just a stone's throw away. I was so scared that I wouldn't get there in time. The horses. I could hear them. Panicking. Where were you, sister?
I was there with you. I was there with you. I had found the keys in the mud after your fight with Peter. I picked them up. I was going to return them to you, but then with the storm coming, I was distracted by my own preparations, my own house. There on the bank of the river, flooding. And so I had the keys. I went to the stable. I knew that you would be there as well, because you're a good, responsible man. I was there with you to take care of the horses, to help move them up to higher ground. And that's when I returned the keys to you.
Victor, what had roused you from sleep at night before the flood came?
I wanted to see you. I also knew that things were going much worse than some folks would have us believe. And I knew the horses had to be let out. So I was already there at the stable. You and Charlotte showed. I still had a spare set of keys. I'd already let the horses out.
Of course you would. Peter, why were you sleepless that night?
You think with a storm it would be too loud to sleep, but it was the opposite. It was too quiet. I hadn't been back to that home since I'd left, and I wasn't used to the emptiness of it. The mom and the dad and the uncle gone. I didn't want to stay there. I was coming back to see all of you. Then you might have been a little guy, but you were good. I don't mean to say you were well. I mean you were good. A little flicker of light, a little candle. You might have been tiny, but in this dark world, you're a goddamn beacon. A proverbial lighthouse, and I wasn't going to let this come between you, Lily, and I.
That right?
I didn't have anyone else, and I was gonna be damned if I lost you two also.
Lily. Dear Lily, tell me, what did you pray for before going to bed that night?
I had prayed for a clear. She kind of looks to the fire for a minute. I had prayed for a clear path through the upcoming storm, both figuratively within our home and what had recently come between us, and through the actual storm outside. I had prayed for guidance and yeah, that's that. I prayed for guidance, for a clear, for an answer, a sign.
Sign to lead you where? Just tell me, Lily. What kind of whole family were you hoping for? By my side? Or had you already returned to his side?
I was looking for an answer. This broke my heart. We had tried for so long to have a baby, and we finally, John was healthy. And and then Peter came back, and I had not been with Peter. I just told him what happened. I didn't give details. I wasn't sure if I should stay or let you. He was Victor, whom you seemed to care about so much. So I wanted a sign.
And you see tears appear in Finn's face, and he buries his head in his hands for a moment. Truth or death? Truth or death? Truth or lie?
Truth or death!
We're not there yet. Truth or lie?
I'm gonna take a dare.
Yeah. All right.
Or dare.
All right. Keep trying to vary my answers rather than just a truth. I feel like
I noticed.
I feel like it's more interesting now.
Charlotte's reached across the table and taken Lily's hand and
Yeah.
in hers. Just kind of gives it a gentle squeeze.
Mm-hmm. She'd squeeze back.
Peter's getting his punchers warmed up, and he's not sure for who. Someone. Maybe Peter.
And yeah, Lily would glance at Victor after that.
Victor is doing his best to hold back tears.
Please not
Charlotte's
doing
flat
a
out
job.
ignoring him.
Well, I thank you for speaking the truth. All of you. He looks at his hands. Blood took so many, so quickly. Water was relentless. I was able to free some of the horses, and Victor, you also helped me. Some of them were just so frenzied that we couldn't approach them. They were out of their mind. I saw the white in their eyes, and screams were deafening. I realized that for the last of these, I just couldn't do anything to save them. I tried to get back to the house, to Lily and my son. I had to make sure they were safe. I waded through the cold water. It was so cold. Then I slipped and I fell. I came back up, spitting in salt water. It tasted awful. The last thing I saw was a flash of something shiny. Then darkness. Darkness since then. Except for this one day. Peter, why haven't you prevented my death?
I was too goddamn slow, like I always am.
I thought I was the slow one.
No, I was too damn slow to get up there in time to do anything about it. I was too damn slow in getting back home. I was too damn slow in trying to pull you back on top of the fucking bell tower at the Abbey. I was always too goddamn slow to do anything. I never did right by you.
Lily, I know I had done you wrong. Watch me die. Why did you not stop it?
Because I was trying to get John out of the house. We had to move to higher ground. We were too close to the river. Couldn't stop it because I wasn't there.
Victor, you must have seen me fall, go under, come back up. But you didn't prevent my death. Why?
I tried. It so angry. So angry. Hurt. I was at war with myself. I didn't know what to do. And when you were crying out for Peter. And that just, I don't have words.
Sister,
Yes, brother.
now you tell me. Why did you not prevent your little brother's death?
I was in the carriage house, taking one of the horses. Up with me to the carriage house. Lead them to save the carriages, to keep them from being washed away in the flood. I was trying to save what I could. I wasn't there. I didn't see you fall. All I saw was even. By the time I saw you, the water was taking you down the river. So sorry. I couldn't. I'm a strong woman, yes. Stronger than many men, but not that strong, not strong enough to fight the floodwaters. I'm so sorry. Loved you so much. I'm alone.
Well, that leaves us at quite the predicament, doesn't it? 'Cause one of you did it. One of you is the reason I haven't been able to just leave. Do you even know? Can you even imagine what it feels like to be locked beyond, not being able to reach out, not moving on, not being able to go wherever that is I'm supposed to go? There's not even a fucking light at the end, as I always say. It seems I wasn't the best man either. Best person. I'm sorry, he looks at Lily. I am sorry, looks at Victor. One of you owes me truth. But for now, truth or lie?
It says before or during Verity check, you can challenge. Peter's
Yes.
thinking to himself, and he's like, Lily, what happened to your son? That's my form of a challenge.
Whoop. John? Well, the waters were fast, and then it told me to get to higher ground to get to the town square because they were on a hill. They wouldn't be near as bad. Of course. And I was holding onto John, and John had just started to walk, toddle about, and fell off the horse. I had him in front of me, but I don't know how, he just slipped into the water, and I jumped in after, but it was too late.
You lost our son. Anybody else want to make use of the challenge or corroborate action before I roll?
Victor, tell them the truth. Tell Finn where you really were. Tell him.
That's a challenge, I take it.
Yes.
I was there near him. All right? We were both drowning. Because one of us cared about him. Cared enough to be near him. But of course, just as always, you were on the high ground staring down, judging the both of us. Not the only one that needs to confess things, do I?
Last thing I saw Finn was Victor next to you in a flash of lightning.
Victor, was that also a challenge? You challenging Charlotte's?
Oh, yes.
It's just challenges
Just
all around.
wanted to make sure.
Don't challenge me. I'm going to challenge you.
Okay, are we good?
Yeah, I don't think Lily has it in her to challenge anybody at this moment. She doesn't know. She's like, I was just trying to save the baby, and I couldn't even do that.
Or was she? All right.
We gotta say truth or lie, don't we?
Let's do the math. Oh yeah, sorry. I didn't say that. Yes, truth or lie. Oh shoot, I forgot to. Sorry. It's the first time somebody using corroborate challenge thing, I forgot to add the penalties. Charlotte, where's your answer? Did you answer?
I thought I had. Okay.
I don't think you did. You
okay. Yep.
Just re-answer if you.
All right.
Yep.
Just be awkward amongst yourselves for another moment. I have to do this again.
I feel like at this point the fire is starting to die down.
Oh yeah.
No one's put any more logs in the fire. So it's the glowing embers of coals. A very cold night.
If anyone does confess, Peter's getting ready to pounce on them.
Lily just looks like she's ready to cry again. She's getting ready for the big cry. And an emotional evening.
The question is it quiet now? Candles burning down, fire dimming. Wind howling, or is it quiet?
It's too quiet. No wind.
The sound of Charlotte's chair is loud as she scoots it back and gets up and walks over to Lily. In very determined steps. And she just kind of hugs her a bit.
After the fire had almost died down, not completely. The flames flicker and switch from orange to blue, and the candles in the middle of the table goes out. And you look at Finn, who looks devastated. On the other end, at the other end of this table, you see Marianne come out of her trance-like state for a moment, giving all of you a warning look. And through the cracks of the door leading into the shack, the fog creeps in. The same strange fog. The temperature drops once more. And Finn looks at all of you one after another, accusingly. Do you want this to continue? All of this? Another year? And you see him revert to his corpse-like state, lips turning blue.
Oh, no.
Confess,
No.
Victor. Do it.
If any of you did something, say it now. If you actually loved him, let him pass.
I panicked. I was right by you. Cried out Peter's name. I grabbed hold of you, but instead of trying to drag you up, I pushed you down. Didn't want to die. didn't want to die. I managed to grab hold of a tree, using you to buoy myself up. It's like a thing possessed. I could have grabbed hold. I could have kept a hold of you. But I let go.
Didn't.
I let go and clung to that tree with the last 2 limbs I had. I watched you.
Charlotte, who's back in her seat, as he finishes speaking, looks over at Victor and then just clocks him. And this is not an open-handed slap. This is a punch by a woman who can hold her own with many men. And
It's true, she can.
Just right across the jaw.
Very quickly, Victor, please indicate. Thank you. The fog recedes. Flames return to normal. And Finn looks at you, Victor. Honest sorrow on his face. Just did what I thought I had to do. But it can't be helped. I came to get answers and justice. I got answers. Doesn't feel just. Really does not.
How can we make it right? Tell us whatever you need.
I will make him
Silence.
see justice.
Just stop. Just stop. For heaven's sake, with all your words. And he thinks for another second. And then his face brightens. If he just had an idea. He looks at you, Victor. I can make this right. I can. We always wanted to go away together, didn't we? I can take you with me. And as he says that, Victor, you feel an invisible hand tighten around your heart and squeeze. Your vision turns black, and it feels as every muscle in your body stiffens, and you hear someone groan, and then you realize it's you that's groaning, and all of you see Victor seize up for a second, and Victor, you hear Finn's voice as he leans in and says, I won't have to be alone in the darkness anymore. Can't you just come with me? Can't you? And then he looks at you and your face, your pain. And then he lets go. You can breathe easily again. Your
Just
body's your own again.
stares at him. And
It didn't work.
take me home. Please.
I can't.
And please.
That's not how it works. But I can promise you this. When your day has come, I want you to lead a good and long life. Until then, I'll be waiting for you. And then he gets up from his chair. He pays all of you one last look. Looks apologetically at Lily. Smiles at Peter. Nods at him. You take care of her now.
Once you get to heaven, bud, you find the biggest goddamn tower you can, because we're on our way. Once we get there, we're gonna have the fucking scrap of a lifetime.
Looks at you, Charlotte. You will always be my bigger sister, won't you?
I will make sure that you get the justice you deserve, baby brother. I loved you.
Don't you dare lay a finger on Victor. Oh, I swear I will come back for you. And with that,
Helped you.
ignoring you, he turns and looks one last time at Victor. And then he just stares ahead, and you hear... And he dissolves into thin air, right in front of your eyes. And at the other end of the table, Marianne leans back. She doesn't say anything. She just gets up, takes her cloak, puts it around herself, grabs her bag, and without paying you any more attention, leaves the room.
Yeah, I'd be tired of our bullshit too.
And so we follow her for a moment. She moves away from this lone hut, and the wind has picked up. There's still the strange fog in the streets, maybe a little less of it. And after a few steps, when she's out of earshot, she stops, looks back, reaches into her cloak, pulls out a hip flask, takes a good swig from it. Oh, Merry Christmas. She walks on, puts a flask back. And as her form starts to get smaller and smaller and the camera pulls back, we hear her hum. And as her voice dissolves in the wind and the darkness of the night, we return one last time to this lone house, where the four of you are left behind. Victor badly hurt, less so from Charlotte's punch, although decently from that well, but more so from the 2 points of harm he received. Tell me, everyone, what happens during this last scene?
Lily is definitely, now that it's done, she's letting it all out. Probably into Peter's shoulder. She's moved aside the nice military coat. She knows how he cares about that. So she's kind of just buried into his shoulder and chest and just crying, getting a good cry before mentioning we should check on Marguerite. Drying the last tears.
Charlotte, it stands up, and there's tears on her face, but they're tears of, I think, anger and hurt. And she sends one just scathing look at Victor before turning her back on him and snatching up the handkerchief. She goes over and with Lily and Peter, I imagine you won't be at Mass tonight, so.
You better be at our place first thing in the morning.
I will be there. The baby a kiss for me. And then she kisses Lily on the top of the head and Peter on the cheek. Bundles herself back up, full shawl over the head. And just leaving almost as she arrived, just with a stride, a stalking stride.
Victor, when death's staring you in the eyes, crazy things can happen. Try and do right by him.
I've got a long sentence. It's a long life. Awful long time to be alone.
At least you have something to look forward to.
Really did love you.
You take care of that little girl. I don't think you'll see me again.
For both of our sakes, I hope not.
Takes the key out of his vest pocket. Leaves it on the table. Walks out into the snow. Gets on his horse. And leaves in the night.
That's the final scene. And where we end this ghost story. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. That was quite a ride, and I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, same. Oof, that was a whole drama. I feel like we could have made that into like a soap opera. Like a mini episode soap opera of just the lives of these people over like a 3-day period. Just drag it out of all the drama. With like flashbacks to the past. Oh, anyways, I love this. This was such a good, spicy, dramatic, tragic story. So
I realized too late that I had no tissue on me.
Oh no.
All right, so I guess we're just gonna go around,
Yeah.
and then so we'll have our debrief. We need to talk. We decided to do that in the green room.
Yep. So
But yeah, Lindy, back to you for now.
for what I would like to do, before our full debrief, is just a little mini debrief for the audience. So who you are, where we can find you online, your favorite moment or moments from today's game, and I'm curious, because it's over now, what was your role? Because I feel like we know that Victor was indeed the murderer, but
I feel like there was a mistake, or I feel like I missed one of your answers because it didn't add up at the end.
So,
but
yeah, curious. We shall see.
yeah,
We'll do me last so I can close up the channel. Let's start with Victor. Let's get it out. Just heavy stuff right there, man.
Yeah, hey everybody, Pope here. So that was a thing that happened. Pope World Bill on Twitter, Pope World Bill on Twitch. I lurk in all your streams. If you want to see more of this ridiculous face, probably a little less teary. I'm not entirely certain. You can check out follow Black Cats online Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern for Hexcrawl the Spy Game. Then this Saturday over on Praxagoria Thesmophoria, we were going to be doing a Q&A for the regiment at the end of its season. So if you want to find out all those juicy, spicy details about that story, by all means, hit me up on the Twitters with #regiment and whatever question you got. We're going to have a long, deep dive. And then on Sunday, if you did not get enough of this game, congratulations, there's more. Over on Colonomicon's channel, 7 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be playing Stille Nacht with certain someone else running the story. I have no idea what's going to happen there. I'm looking forward to it. This is always a great game, every single time. And that little hiccup was on my part because I was telling the truth, but not telling the truth at the same time. So I didn't know where we were in the script, so I needed to put false there, but I'm glad I didn't. Happy accidents. But no, I love playing with each and every one of these people. It's always a delight, as rare as I get to do it. And Kat, we always end up sparring, it seems.
Yeah.
But I can say this now, like it's almost 3 years since we've been doing this.
Yeah.
That I don't think I'd rather have another sparring partner than you. Like you always give, and I know you give 100% with absolutely no malice. And I adore you for that.
Love you too.
So, no, these characters, this process, completely collaborative, absolutely amazing. If you want to have a time that you are going to remember, and when you're going to hate yourself and others, have some deep catharsis, like cheesecake level catharsis, play this game. You can find it on Petra's Itch.
Mm-hmm.
And
links in the chat.
Go there, get this, play this with people you care about, have one hell of a time. Till next time, see you around.
Fantastic. Next we have my dear sister-in-law at some point, Charlotte. How are you?
Wow. Coping.
Yeah.
I'm Kat. I'm Kat. Or at Clerk of Core, which is where you can find me on Twitter, and hanging out in various Discord servers. And I drink, I roll dice, and I play games on the internet with my friends. I'm going to be doing a bit of drinking later. It's only 2:00 here. It's a touch too early to shop. To get, well, I have things to do first, unfortunately. Wow. So where can you find me? Actually, everybody but Petra this coming week. Tomorrow is the finale of Achtung Cthulhu over on Encounter Roleplay, where Lily is playing, Lindy is playing Helen Phipps, our Kiwi sniper with 302 confirmed kills. And I am playing Judith Gold, who is a trained SOE operative and been behind the lines for about 3 years, training resistance operators, and where the scariest thing is not the Elder Gods, but the Nazis. So it's Cthulhu with World War II, and yeah. So our finale tomorrow, that'll be fun. Much lighthearted, very, it's going to be a week. Wednesday on the Stalwart Initiative with Strider, who is, believe it or not, a sad boy paladin. Yeah, it's believable.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yep, with some Eberron 5e, and then no, that's not this Thursday. Then back the 20th, Sunday, over as posted on Colin's channel, running Stille Nacht, with an incredible group of people. And I'm finally going to get some terror revenge on Donathan Fry. Yes, I owe him for a few Bluebeard's brides. Petra, I think this is the first time if that we actually played together, but I know it's definitely the first time we've played this game together.
But the thing is, we've been talking about it so often, it felt like we've already done this before.
Yep, we've never done it. It is an honor. Thank you so much for this game, for inviting me to play today, for everything, for your insights. And you know how much I love you and how much I love this game. And thank you so much. It's really a pleasure and an honor. My favorite moment, the one that was unexpected, it was most unexpected, was Peter asking Lily how the baby died. I did not see that coming, especially after 3 years. To me, I thought that might have been something that they would have talked, but that question just, that one knocked me back a bit.
Love it. Fantastic. Speaking of fantastic, Peter Schmidt. Well, maybe he's not fantastic, but Strider's fantastic.
Hey, my name's Strider Heap. That's my Twitter handle too. I make doodles sometimes, so come get your character did.
They're fantastic doodles.
This game is always intense, and that was a class A rank, like top tier, 100 out of 10. I kind of feel like a Stille Nacht ghost myself, because like I come out of the darkness once in December to come play a game with Lindy, and then I recede again. It's been a while since I've been on here, but thank you very much for having me. I always love it. I want to say, I love this game so much, but seeing Petra run it is a testament also to how well Kat can run it and how well she understands it and how well she can capture the exact same vibe and obviously understands not just the mechanics, but like the motif that you're going for, So fantastic to both of them, though I gotta say my favorite part's probably Pope. I can't even remember characters I am playing in games in later this week, but I can remember every single character I've ever played in the game with you. Last time we played Stille Nacht, you were a blacksmith, and I can remember that because you just bring so much character and life to the table or the virtual screen that, like, I'm not talking to Pope, I'm talking to Victor. It's just it's stunning. I wish so badly I could play with him more. Hopefully I get a chance to. But if you ever get a chance, it's an experience.
Fantastic. And of course, last but certainly not least, Petra, the creator of this game and our facilitator, our spooky ghost and medium.
Hey, yeah, that was a ride. Let me get the business stuff out of the way first. You can find me on Twitter at Petra Volkhausen, and then my well, itch page. You said you linked that, so you've probably seen it. petrav.itch.io.
Been throwing it up every like half hour.
Thank you. You can get both digital version of Stille Nacht and also a print version. And just yesterday or the day before, what day is it? Time doesn't exist anymore. I'm ready for the end of the year. But I added one more gimmick to all of you who purchased the game. And I recorded the first stanza of Stille Nacht, and I made it spooky to hopefully make you all cry. And once more thanks to Lydia Havast Hermit, because she gave me the idea to, like, the echo works so well. It makes it so creepy, and she said, yeah, go ahead, do it for your recording as well. So my favorite moment, I don't even know.
Or moments, you can have more than one.
I would say from a perspective, it was, so I mean, you dropped bits and pieces, and I could see that you were getting really excited, and then all the comments about this is gonna get spicy. It's like, what the hell? What is going on? And then so Finn and Victor, okay, and then I had already before the game registered Lily and Peter, but then was there, like, what was going on between Finn and Peter? I think we have to talk about that as well. And then what kind of family did they really want to establish? I think
complicated one.
Me, Petra, wanted to ask a lot of questions in those moments. Then I decided that Finn would just let it slide and just decide for the moment that Peter was his friend. And I guess that was another of my, it wasn't even a moment, it was just at least from what I got and from all the truth lie answers, the creeping realization that Peter actually seemed to care about Finn, because after having you seen in the last game, Strider, I don't know, I guess I was prepared for you to just play an asshole, and even if you weren't the murderer, that you didn't have the ghost's well-being in mind. So with every time, oh, he didn't lie? Oh, okay. Wait, he really likes me? Oh, no, I kind of feel bad a little bit. I don't know if that was anywhere noticeable on my face, but that is what was going on inside my head.
I loved your face journey through this whole game of being like, oh, well, okay then. And then just, like...
because there were so many moments where it was really tricky in the very second to divvy up Petra reaction and keep it somewhere back and just mask confused ghost. I don't know what's going on. I don't remember everything yet. No, but that was fun. And frankly, I didn't expect that I would get that emotional for myself. I didn't quite experience that in the test games, but I guess it makes sense because I was so focused on the mechanics. How did it work? What were the things that didn't work? And so I was
this time
always,
it's more just playing.
Yeah. And I enjoyed those games. I thought, ooh, this is really good. But there was always this distance and this like, I was like torn. Like, fuck, what should I do? And then I always considered, should I actually on the last stretch switch into the asshole I could have technically played, who just stomped on everybody's heart? But I was like, no, there's enough mean things going on here. I'm just gonna go for the, well, yeah, apparently I can also be an asshole, but I just wanted to do what I thought was the best for everybody. And that really did make me cry. So that was that.
Love it. Before I do my spiel, some of my favorite moments, again, was Petra's face journey. through all of it was pretty great. I also loved how the ghost and the medium were both like, can y'all just not? Can y'all just stop being at each other's throats for 5 minutes? Like, I think because everyone was so close as a unit in the groups, a lot of when I was playtesting it, we didn't have, like, everyone in the same kind of familial circle. So I think because everyone was so close and there was so much drama and tension, yeah, it makes sense for the ghost to be like, hold up, can y'all just not? And I loved it. I loved how just done the medium was. She's like, yep, Merry Christmas, flask swig, and go off. Like, yeah, I would do that too if I was that medium. That would, yeah. And I also, I don't know why the Stille Nacht, like, some of the questions always catch me off guard, but they do. Like, when the ghost asked, what did you pray for that night of the flood? I was like, oh boy, that's how can I answer this? Like, prayer got answered, but not in the way she was expecting, and this would make her seem a bit sus, maybe.
Great thinking on your feet. Like, it made me suspicious enough to challenge you.
Like, hold on a second, wait a minute. Yeah.
Especially when Peter then asked, what happened to the kid, by the way? I was like, wait, did I get it all wrong?
Yeah, it was really neat. So the questions were great, everyone's answers, and just the bickering. Just everyone's bickering. It did feel like such a family type thing with poor Victor. I felt bad for Victor the whole time. I was like, this poor guy. Like, poor guy. But yeah. Oh, and I was just a bystander. I had absolutely nothing to do with anything. So ha. You can find me here on my channel, Laugh Love Lindy. I play games because I'm an addict. This was super duper fun. In about 3.5 hours, we will be back here on this channel for some Kids on Brooms. I think it might be our last episode or second last episode, depending on how long it takes us to figure out some puzzles. But I'm a magical alligator. We also have a Florida skunk ape, a ghoul, a headless horseman, and a normal human. So you should definitely check it out. And GMs, that's what happens when you say you can be whatever you want. You don't have to be human. So just throwing that out there. Tomorrow night, we will be back with Mists of Ravenloft, which is getting real exciting. They're going diving for body retrievals to satisfy a necromancer, maybe fight him. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know what they're gonna do yet. The Ship of Horrors 2E module, so it's real spooky, lots of fun. I will be with Kat on Encounter Roleplay in the afternoon, and then between those two games, I will be on LFM Network GMing Degrees of Madness, and it's not the finale, but I think it's the penultimate episode tomorrow, so definitely come check it out, because that's gonna be, whew, shit gets real. Shit gets a little bit real in the episode tomorrow, or it's gonna be exciting. And then back on Friday for Aether's Walkway. I believe it's gonna be an extra long episode, so 3 hours instead of the regular 2, because, you know, holidays are coming up and we're gonna be on a little bit of a break. So that's all I can think of off the top of my head for now for me. So I'm gonna just say thank you all so much for hanging out and watching in the chat. I loved y'all's reactions. They were about as fantastic as everyone else's, and I hope that if you have not played Stille Nacht yet, this entices you to play, because it's an absolutely fantastic game that everyone should try. So thank you, we'll see you later, hopefully. Have fun, play games.